Benjamin Blue Heeler. That's probably the name that's been on fans' minds ever since Ludo Studios, the production company behind the show, confirmed that yes, Bluey and Bingo had an older brother.
I can't believe!
But did you catch the hints about him in the episodes? Have you ever imagined what the Heeler's life would have been like if Chili and Bandit hadn't lost their first child?
Bingo!
If Ben hadn't faced the fate we all know from the show, we would have pretty much the same series, showcasing the daily lives of Bandit and Chili's pups and their playful adventures. And Benjamin, or just Ben, would have been so much fun. We believe he would have looked just like his dad did back in the 80s, as seen in the fairy tale episode. Ben would be a kid who loved exploring nature, much like Chili did when she lived in the swamp with her parents. On top of that, he'd be a huge sports fan. We know this because Rusty was originally meant to be the main character of the story, and Bluey's brother would likely have a personality similar to that of a cricket player. Ben would definitely be around 8 or 9 years old, making him more experienced than his little sisters and placing him in a more advanced class at Calypso School. Some episodes would feature him teaching the pups a thing or two. In fact, we're sure he would have been the one to take his sisters to the creek instead of Bandit, showing them the wonders of nature. But today, we're going to show you what that show would be like with Ben in it, as revealed by Ludo Studios. Grab your popcorn and relax, because it's time for another Cinewave. Ben's teenage years would begin in Bluey's 4th season because in the upcoming episode set to release this year, our mysterious Blue Heeler would already be 13 years old. At this age, kids still play games, but they also start caring about other things, like their first teenage crush, going out alone with friends to shop at the mall, swapping toys for video games and social media. But it's also a bit of a rebellious phase. Benjamin would bring some stressful moments for his parents, and that's totally normal. Teenagers are discovering themselves as people, or in this case, as dogs. It would be interesting to see episodes where Ben's behavior forces Bandit and Chili to be stricter parents. In fact, we already know exactly what Ben would be like. He'd have a personality very similar to Bandit, cracking lame jokes at his younger sisters and taking on the curse of silence until someone says his name. He'd be a kid who needs to learn that growing up doesn't mean throwing away the good things you learn in childhood. Unfortunately, teenagers forget this until they mature, but no worries, that's something Papa Heeler could handle. If Ben were alive, the fairy tale episode would have been a lesson for him. What do you think about this theory? As an adult, we don't believe he'd follow in his father's footsteps. That destiny is meant for Bingo. Remember how we mentioned that Rusty was supposed to be the protagonist of the story? Most likely, Rusty is Ludo Studios' way of showing us what Bluey's unborn brother would have been like. That's why we believe Ben Heeler would have pursued a career in sports. Not as a cricket player, but as a star player for the Australian national rugby team. Yes, he'd play for the team his dad loves so much, and we'd get an episode where the entire Heeler family goes to the stadium to watch the championship final. That would be one of the most exciting stories to see in the show's future. Mackenzie probably wouldn't root for the Australian team since Border Collies come from New Zealand. Could this be a hint that the two wouldn't get along? The Heelers seem to take rugby very seriously. Sadly, Benjamin was never born, which is why the show includes hints that his absence deeply affected his parents. And that's why Bandit and Chili go to therapy. Many people wonder if Chili actually had a pregnancy before Bluey, or if it's just a fan theory. But no, Ludo Studios, or rather Joe Brum, the show's creator, confirmed this in an interview with Australian journalist and writer Isabel Oderberg. In that interview, he confirms that the scene where Bluey and Bingo put on a play, featuring the infamous moment when a balloon pops on Chili's belly, is actually a clue that there was indeed a pregnancy before Bluey, one that unfortunately didn't go well. Because of this loss, the couple sought therapy to learn how to be good parents in the future. This is almost certainly true, as there are other hints. In the episode where Bandit plays Bingo's grumpiness while Chili plays the role of happiness, it's a way of showing how parents handle their pup's sadness and anger. A therapist definitely taught them that. Losing Ben pushed the couple to seek help because they wanted to stay strong as a family and try to become parents again. As sad as it is to talk about this topic, the Heeler couple needed that support to give it another shot. Do you enjoy talking about Bluey because it makes you happy? Comment #Bluey so we can keep the conversation going. Now here's a tough question. Would Bingo have been born if Benjamin had survived? There's a scene in the perfect episode that suggests maybe not. During a conversation with a neighbor, while Bluey is pretending to be a boomerang, Papa Heeler talks about possibilities for the future. Younger viewers might not fully grasp the meaning of this conversation, but for adults, it's crystal clear. Bandit is talking about the possibility of having a surgery that would prevent him from getting his wife pregnant again. The reason for this discussion is that the couple was deciding whether or not to have more children. When they donate the baby crib in the bedroom episode, it becomes clear that they decided 2 pups were more than enough. This could be a clue that if Ben had lived, the Heelers might not have had a 3rd pup, meaning Bingo wouldn't have been born. The show would be completely different without our beloved brown puppy. A lot of people wonder if magic actually exists in Bluey's universe, but one theory might prove that we've already seen it. just not in a way you'd expect. Ben's spirit could be the creature Bingo sees in the episode Fairies. His role is to protect his sisters, acting as a kind of guardian angel, making sure everything works out for them. The fairy doesn't have the shape of a blue heeler dog, but we can say that it's a magical image of our beloved Ben's spirit. And it's almost certain that this is true because Bingo doesn't know who set up the domino pieces in the middle of the room. In other words, there really is some kind of mysterious force at play in that house, and there's only one character who could be responsible. Benjamin is most likely the little pup who became the guardian angel, watching over his sisters. The episode Show and Tell is a story that not many of you fully understand, and it has everything to do with Ben Heeler. It all starts when Bluey and Bingo get annoyed because Bandit gives them too many orders. The little blue pup wants to try ketchup with sugar instead of the healthy ketchup, but Bandit refuses. This leads Dad to take them out for a trip around the city. He makes up an excuse that they need to buy a surfboard, but that's not really the reason. Papa Heeler actually wants to have a serious conversation with his daughters about what it means to be a father and why he's so protective of them. The truth is, that was the day Bandit took them to the cemetery, what Bingo calls the statue world. This is the place where little Ben is buried, and Mr. Heeler was probably going to show it to his daughters. Maybe he thought it was time for them to know the truth. When they arrive, Bandit looks straight at us, as if he's looking at the person watching the show. He wanted to tell his daughters about Ben, but in the end, he holds back because they're still too young. But that conversation will happen someday. The episode Rain is the story that most clearly hints at Ben's existence. Even though it has almost no dialogue, we know that by the end, when the two rainbows appear in the sky, it confirms the fan theory. A rainbow baby is when a mother, like Chili, gives birth after losing a child. Bluey and Bingo are rainbow babies, which proves that Ben could have been a part of the Heeler family. The entire episode is a magical way of showing what it was like for Chili to go through another pregnancy after what happened. Her struggle to keep the house clean while stopping Bluey from running into the yard is almost like the creators are telling us Chili was scared to have another child after Ben, but in the end, everything worked out. Of course, the house ended up messy with all the toys and playtime, but Chili was so much happier. You know what would make things even happier? Subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications! Even though Bandit decided not to show where Ben is buried in Show and Tell, it's very likely that in Season 4, Bluey and Bingo will finally learn about it. Bluey and Bingo are entering a new stage in life, with more responsibilities, and that includes knowing the truth. It's very possible that during a trip to Sydney, Chili will tell them everything that happened. We'll explain why later, so stick around. But what we can say for now is that since Bluey is growing up and we'll be exploring more of Australia next season, there's a good chance we'll get a special flashback episode in a fairy tale style. Chili will tell her daughters about the time she traveled to Sydney with Bandit, and that's when Benjamin's story will come up. It's going to be an emotional episode.
Am I crying? No, I'm not crying.
If you pay close attention to the episode Bob Bilby, the one where Bingo brings that puppet home, you'll notice something interesting. In the garage scene, there's a surfboard hidden behind a cabinet. This stands out because during the trip to the cemetery, Bandit tells the girls he's going to buy a surfboard. But wait, doesn't he already have one? It's not like Bandit actually goes surfing, right? The truth is, Bandit probably bought that surfboard because he wanted to spend time in the ocean with his son. Anyone who lives near the beach knows that surfing is a common way for dads to bond with their boys. But after losing his son, he left the board abandoned in the garage, collecting dust. And in the episode Show and Tell, when he was planning to take the girls to see where Ben is, Mr. Heeler bought another surfboard, this time to live out that dream with his daughters. In the episode Puppets, we see a photo of Chili and Sydney by the Australian coast during a trip she took while pregnant with Ben. In Season 4, it's almost certain that we'll get an episode where Mom and her daughters do something the girls absolutely love. There's a tradition of recreating old photos of parents in the same location, but this time with their kids, to show how time has passed. When Bluey finds the photo and tries to recreate it with her mom, thinking it was her inside Chili's belly, we'll get a flashback showing everything that happened. This could be the most emotional episode yet, or maybe it'll even be part of the Bluey movie coming out in 2027. That's still a long way off, but you don't have to wait that long to stick around with us. We've got 2 more videos lined up just for you. Click and enjoy. See you in the next one.